This is a tutorial on the Fire Hardening and Defensible Space Disclosure and Addendum C.A.R. Form FHDS Revised 625, but here we are in May of 2026, and this is the current version of a 4-page form. Now, really, this form's just 2 pages, but the last 2 pages are dedicated to a decision tree to help people fill this out because this form can get very confusing very quickly. But we are going to simplify it in this tutorial. We'll start up here at the top. Now, keep in mind, this is really 2 forms in one. And you have a fire hardening disclosure, which is more or less page 1. And then page 2 is more or less this defensible space disclosure and addendum. So it's really 2 forms on 2 pages, all bundled together. And you start by putting the date of the contract, of course, property address, names of the buyer and seller. And then it tells you whether or not this form even applies to your transaction because you may not even need to add this form. And then it outlines 3 criteria. Number 1, is the property between 1 to 4 units? And 1 to 4 units is anything from a condo or a single family home at 1 unit all the way up to a 4-plex. It's another way of saying residential real estate. So is this residential real estate? Okay, yes, we'll say it is. Then it says number 2. The seller is required to fill out a transfer disclosure statement, a TDS. And that's another way of saying, is the seller exempt? And most of the time, the seller's not exempt. An example of an exempt seller is, let's say you have a trustee that inherited a property and never resided in the property. Now, that seller would be exempt. They would not need to do a TDS. But again, that's rare. Sometimes I'm asked by maybe a property owner, a landlord that has a property in an LLC that they never lived in, and they get a TDS and they think, well, this doesn't apply to me, I'm exempt. And the answer is wrong. You do need to fill out a TDS. Just because you never resided there, that doesn't preclude you. So if the seller has to do a TDS, okay, then they may have to do this form. And now number 3, the third criteria is a property located in a high or very high fire hazard zone? Well, how do you find that out? We use a cheat sheet called an NHD. Here we are looking at a fast NHD. But this page, this is a universal template right here that all NHD companies have because this is part of the legal requirement. And so you see right here, high or very high fire hazard zone, and you have a yes here. Now, if you have a yes, and there's any high or very high fire hazard zone, then and of course it meets the other criteria, then you will very likely need to do this whole form. Now we scroll down here. So at this point we have the 3 criteria. We know if the answer is yes to that, we're gonna have to fill something out on here. But when we get down to section 2 to actually fill this form out, there's another qualifier. Was the property built on or after January 1 of 2010? Now it says if the answer is yes, if it's a newer property built on or after January 1st, 2010, you can skip 2B and 2C and basically move on to page 2, the second part of the form, the defensible space disclosure. But for the sake of an example, we'll say that no, the home was not built on or after January 1st, 2010. We have to fill this out. So it asks here, and this is where sellers get tripped up, and I'll explain how to explain it to a seller, how to present it to a seller so they don't get tripped up. Because sellers get nervous. They get nervous when they get asked on disclosures and they don't want it to get in trouble. And what you're going to point them to is the word aware. Are you, the seller, aware of the following features that make it more vulnerable to fires? And then it outlines all these features. Now, it's not asking if for a yes or no in an absolute. It's asking if the seller knows of it. Do you know of these things? If you don't, the answer is no. It's really simple. I mean, don't overthink it. It's asking if you, the seller, are aware of it, and then it asks you of these different things. You know, if the roof coverings made of untreated wood shingles or shakes, yes or no. And if you don't know, the answer is no. It's really that simple. That's why aware is such a key word in this disclosure and all disclosures. Sellers get in trouble if they conceal or misrepresent, not if they accidentally answer no about a roof leak because it hasn't rained for a year. All right, that's how sellers get in trouble, when they misrepresent or conceal. Okay, now we go on to the next part. It's going to ask another battery of questions here to that seller about low-cost retrofits. Again, does the seller know of this or not? If they know of it, they'll easily put yes. And if they don't, they'll put no. It's really that simple. Then Seller's going to initial, later the buyer will, and we get down to section 3, which is the beginning of the second form of the form. Fast NHD lets you order a California Natural Hazard Disclosure Report instantaneously. Enter the property address, add your escrow information, and place the order. The NHD report is instantly generated so you can download it right away. No more waiting for email delivery, no more checking spam, just an instant download. For a hassle-free NHD report, enter FastNHD on the purchase agreement or visit fastnhd.com and place your order online. The Defensible Space Disclosure and Addendum. Now, this is another area where people get very confused. And it asks again if the property is or is not subject to a local vegetation management ordinance. Now, many properties are. If the seller doesn't know, then the answer is no. I mean, it's asking if it is or isn't. I mean, that's something that the seller has to decide if they know. I mean, they should know if it is. And then the seller on this 3B, see this first option? This is a totally reasonable response if the seller's unaware. Because if a seller truly doesn't know about a local ordinance, and as a homeowner, you're likely going to get mail that's talking about ordinance compliance. And if the seller truly doesn't know and says is not, and they go down here, the seller's unaware, they can do nothing in 3B and move on. This is the most simple way this form gets filled out. I see this fairly often. Seller's unaware whether property is in compliance. If you don't know, you don't know. I mean, you can't warrant something that you don't know. So don't overthink it. Don't get spooked by this form. You can do nothing in 3B. Now, you can read this and say property is in compliance, and then the seller must have obtained within the last 6 months some sort of compliance documentation. A seller's going to know if this applies to them. I mean, maybe a seller got a notice from the fire department about all this brush around their home, and then they had to pay someone to come out with a weed trimmer, clean it all up, and then get it inspected. If a seller went through that, they're going to know and they're going to answer this appropriately. But if it's been completely out of their mind, they have no idea, they're 100% unaware, leave 3B alone. Default verbiage, 3B1, done. Move on to 3B or 3C. And it's another situation where if there's no local ordinance, you do nothing here. And it basically puts the burden on the buyer because it says, look, as a seller, I have no idea. This has not even crossed my mind ever. And if that's the case, the seller does nothing on 3C and basically says, look, the buyer can figure this out. You want compliance documentation. You want to go and contact all these agencies like the city or county fire department. Go for it after we close escrow. Or if the seller is aware that there is an ordinance in effect, then they can choose one of these and then they can place the burden of responsibility on who's going to obtain documentation of compliance. So it's really a matter of, has this an issue that's been dealt with? Have I, as the seller, had to deal with it? Yes or no? And if there is an ordinance and you're playing hot potato with this ordinance that you know about, you can say, look, there is a ordinance in effect, but the buyer can go obtain documentation after close of escrow and check this box here. So if the seller is aware of something, then they should read these. But if they're unaware and they do nothing in 3B and 3C, well, look, you have 3B1 and 3C1. You don't have to check any box. You just move on. That's it. And if the seller is in possession of some sort of report, or they've been working with some agency, local, state, whatever, to deal with fire or brush or hardening with the home, the area around it by clearing burning material, then they'll write it in here. Yeah, I just had to go through it. Like here's an example of an exception. Most sellers, by the way, are going to do a 3B and leave it alone, 3C, leave it alone. But for the seller that has gone through something where the fire department, this happens in the area where I live, where the fire department sends something out and says, hey, you need to be in compliance. Well, you know. And if you had to get in compliance or you got a citation as a seller, you're going to know, and you're going to have a copy of a report. And if you're concerned about it as a seller or the seller's agent, You can explore this by searching online for local ordinances for wherever the property is located. I was actually doing that before I recorded this video, and it took me all of 2 minutes to find a list of contact agencies, local fire department or jurisdictions where you can look into this further. If you're really concerned and you want to explore this, this is not complicated stuff. I mean, I think people overthink this. And then down here, this pertains to a new construction property. And if you have a report, read this. It may apply to you. Most of the time, it's not. You're going to move on. The seller signs and you're done. And I hope I didn't belabor the point too much, but there's just a few things you have to think about when you go through here. And if you need to, you can fall back on this decision tree. I think it's a bit overkill. The sad part is, as much as I like to blame C.A.R. on their forms being overly complex and that C.A.R. has abandoned any semblance of simplicity, this actually falls on the way the law is written. And this form is as ugly as this form is, because there's so many variables. It's like going through a maze. It's really, this decision tree is fairly helpful. Hopefully my tutorial is helpful, but it's just the way the law is written with all this compliance that makes it like this. So it's just the way the law is. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. If you have a question, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching.